Hi, I'm Sean. Welcome to another On the Road video, brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Okay, we're on a Kitchenaid wall oven. Complaint is uneven heating. We're here to replace the oven sensor. We've ohmed it out, found a bad reading on a previous visit. We're gonna replace the main control. For main control failure though, you could have no bake, no broil, no light function, convection function. Basically, it's the heart of the unit. It can cause pieces to fail. And we're gonna replace the broil element. To complete this repair, you'll need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, which on this repair I've incorporated into my drill. 1/4 inch drive incorporated into my drill. A 1/4 inch socket and ratchet, wire strippers, and also terminal crimpers. Stop! Before beginning any repair, always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. Just to be safe, we went down already, made sure the breaker was off. On this particular oven, the power supply isn't long enough to reach up to pull the unit out and sit it on the floor so we can inspect everything. So first thing we're gonna do is just take out the racks, take the door off just to remove some weight. Then we're gonna take the oven out of the wall, place it down onto the floor so that way we can access everything and give it a good once over to find out what could be tripping that breaker. All right, so obviously we'll open the door, grab my racks, just pull them out. And then we'll just set those on the floor. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove the door. To do so, it's got locking tabs that we'll pull out. So that way when we close it, it catches the door and then we can remove it. Now this door is heavier than most, so make sure you get a good grip on it and place that on the floor as well. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and pull it out. We've already removed the 2 mounting screws that go in here. These little brackets may fall out, no big deal if they do. So we're gonna just grab the oven. And then just place it onto the floor. Go ahead and rotate it so that way we can get to the panels a little bit easier. So we already disconnected the power supply, which would have went in this area here because the cord wasn't long enough to get the unit out. So you don't see that, which you normally may see. So to access everything, we're gonna start removing this panel here. There are 1/4 inch screws that hold in all the panels that we're gonna take off to access all the important components. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go around the unit and take those out. All right, with those off, now we can kind of lift up and get this panel off. Just be careful, it's sharp so you don't cut yourself. It'll pop right off. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove this panel now. Now the panel should be loose and we can pull it off and get it out of the way. Now that we have the oven out of the wall, the power supply is disconnected, which would normally run in this fashion here and tie in to our terminal block there. We can access our control here. Just to make my job easier, I'm gonna go ahead and just remove all the wires. Everything is keyed specifically for a certain piece, so you can't really mix anything up on here. I'm just gonna start with unplugging the different harnesses before I actually remove the board. So we'll go ahead and just start grabbing them. See, they're even color coded here, green and green, blue and blue, red with red. These ones here, even though they're just black, the placement of the terminals will only correspond properly with the wires. So if I tried to put this guy here, it, you know, there's an empty terminal where that wire would be. So like I said, it kind of helps you a little bit so you don't make the wrong call. White here, yellow here, black here, and that one up in the front. And just to make it easier, I'll go ahead and disconnect the sensor right here. that plugs into this. That's not with the board, it's a separate piece, but it will get out of the way so we can remove it easier. Now with all the wires disconnected, there's 1/4 inch screw right here. I'm gonna go ahead and take out. And then we can pull up on this side. There are tabs where it's slotted that the board will slide into place. So we'll go ahead and remove this board. Careful not to pull the wire out in the process. Okay, so we have our new control here. And first I'm going to point out that the tabs that are right down here, they're going to correspond with these 2 slots. So we're going to carefully kind of fit our board into position, making sure not to pull up too hard on the wire to loosen it. Slide our board, those tabs under the slots. With that being done, now we can put our 1/4 inch screw that mounts the board, put that back in. So that'll hold it in place. Now we're going to go through and reconnect all of our harnesses that we had removed earlier. So some people will take a picture, and a lot of times that's the prudent thing to do. That way you know exactly where everything goes. But like I said earlier, this guy here, they were pretty generous. They color coded everything, so they made it really hard for us to mess this up. All right, and then just give it a quick once over, make sure everything's pushed down and tightened up as it should. That way you don't have to pull the oven back out to redo it. We can see up here, this wire, burn up, shorted out, whatever you want to say. You can see there's some black marking up here where it all kind of came in contact with the cabinet. So now that we're back here, we're going to go ahead and, so we can replace our element. This wire is obviously already disconnected because it's burned up. We'll have to repair that. We'll disconnect the other wire to the element right there, and then we're going to unplug the harness for the sensor. So now we can go around to the other side of the oven, remove those components, and replace them. So to remove our broil element, we're going to take out these 2 screws here. We'll remove the broil first by itself. So these are just number 2 Phillips. All right, and then the other 2 screws to remove the broil element are going to be in the front. Now, if the screw's out, the element's going to come down, and then we'll just pull it out just like that. So to remove our broil element, there's 4 number 2 Phillips. All right, so now we have our broil element loose, and then we can just remove it from the bracket and tighten it. So we got our new broil element. I'm just gonna go ahead, insert it into the openings there, and then go ahead and install our screws to mount it. Okay, so we're going to remove our sensor here. It's held in place by 1 number 2 Phillips. So we'll go ahead and get that out. And with that loose, it should just pull straight out since we already disconnected the harness. And it comes out just like so. Okay, so we have our new sensor. We're just going to go ahead and insert it, the harness in, the plug in. Sometimes it doesn't go through all the way. What we'll do is we'll just go around to the back side before we fully install it and make sure that our harness came out through the back. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go just take a peek. And it's out, so now I can go ahead and insert the screw to mount it in place. Let's try to straighten it up first, and then tighten it. So that's installed. Then we can proceed to our broil element. Okay, so we have our broiler assembly here. We're going to go in and insert the terminals through the holes that are exposed, making sure our probe for our sensor sticks through the bracket for the broiler. So it just sits up like that. To hold it in place, I'm actually going to install the screws in the front, and that will really hold it up for me. So number 2 Phillips. Okay, with that up there, then we can go ahead and put the number 2 Phillips that hold the rear of the broil element assembly. All right, so that's replaced. We're back here. We have all of our wires for our sensor and our element. So this one here, obviously, we're gonna have to repair. So just to clean up and get some of this out of the way, I'm just gonna plug our sensor in. It only fits one way. Just go ahead and push it in. It snaps in, doesn't have anywhere to go. Then I'll take our broil element wire that's still in good shape and just push that on. Now here's the one that's bad. So we're gonna go ahead and just cut that off. Okay, we're gonna strip it back maybe 1/4 of an inch. We don't need it to be stripped back too far. Just to expose maybe a little bit more than that. To expose the wires right there. And then what you're gonna wanna do is use a high temp terminal. Okay, and you only wanna use high temp because obviously you're in an oven. So I have a high temp stainless steel terminal here. And we're gonna slide over that wire just like that. Now, if we leave it like that, obviously the wire is gonna fall off. I have these crimpers. Got that ready to go. I'm gonna slide the wire into my terminal here. And then with that in place, I just squeeze down. It compresses that stainless steel sleeve around the wires. Give it a gentle tug. It's not going anywhere. Now we can go ahead and plug that into our element. And we just repaired that bad terminal. Okay, so we got our back panel. The lower part of this back panel is gonna tuck in at the bottom. So it goes inside that little slot, we're gonna call it. It's gonna be a little tight and it's very sharp, so you wanna be careful. Come on. There's one side. I hope that the second side wants to cooperate. All right, so we got it in. Then we can go ahead and start zipping our screws in all the way around. Once again, these are all 1/4 inch screws. So, and there are a lot of them, so. Okay, so now the back panel is secured. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put the oven in the cavity. Just kind of get it in there a little bit more. Now, how this is, I gotta kind of let it hang out. Don't recommend this at home. Okay, so we're gonna hook up our power. Here's our terminal block. On here you can see the black, white, and red. We have black, white, and red. So we're gonna go ahead and hook those up. They get secured. One of these nuts here. Come back and tighten them all at once. Just get it on there. All right, so we got our last nut here for the red wires. All right, and I'm just gonna use a small crescent wrench just to tighten everything down. Make sure they're snug so you don't have a situation where anything's going to arc or anything like that. So everything's in it. We'll grab our wires just to make sure it's not loose. All right, so we got our ground wire, and I'm going to go ahead and install that now. Typically, it'd be easier to do with the oven out and exposed, but we don't have that luxury today. So go ahead and install this. All right, so now we'll reinstall this top panel. All right, so we got that down. Go ahead and start zipping the screws back in. Gotta kind of be creative to get to the screws. Open the cupboard so I don't scrape the cupboard with my drill. Now the other side, we're just going to do them by hand or with my ratchet. All right, so now everything's installed. We go ahead and push the oven back into the cavity. That way it doesn't fall out on us. Now we have the two screws that actually hold it into the wall that we can put in. There goes one here and one here. I'm gonna go ahead and install those now. And these are just number 2 Phillips. You wanna be careful not to over tighten them. Not because of fear of stripping out the wood, but for making your screwdriver or drill slip and then messing up the black paint. Okay, so we got our 2 racks. Not gonna worry too much about where I place them, because that's gonna be up to the customer preference, where they like them, but we'll get them in there. Got them there. Now we're gonna install our door. And like I said, when I removed it, it is a heavy door, so you really wanna make sure you got a good hold of it before you go in there. So we're gonna put each hinge into the hinge receptacle until it doesn't go in anymore. We'll open the door. Hold on to it just in case you missed and you messed it up. So you're holding on to it. We're gonna lock the hinges out by pushing those tabs back. Now we're gonna hold the handle, hold it tight just in case you don't have it and it wants to fall out. We're gonna close it, open it, close it, just to make sure the function is there. And that completes our repair. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.